back to the youth live stream, live at 4. It's so good to see you. Why don't you just say hey if you're here in the chat? It'd be really cool to hear you. We hope you're all doing good. We have probably had the weirdest bank holiday weekend ever, right? Why don't you let us know in the chat what you have been doing this weekend? But it has indeed been a bank holiday weekend. Doesn't feel like it, does it? Because we've kind of all been stuck at home, and that feels strange when a bank holiday weekend is normally a great opportunity to go out and do something fun. But hey, why don't you let us know in the chat what you have been doing this bank holiday weekend? You've just got me today. But in a moment, we are going to hear a talk. In the week, we caught up with Josh Wilson, who is a student here at Highfield. He is going to be speaking to us all about humility. So we're gonna kick off with that in just a moment. So stick around for that. But let us know in the chat if you've been up to anything with your bank holiday weekend. We had a barbecue yesterday. That is, for me, been the highlight of our bank holiday weekend. It is officially summer if you're able to barbecue. Yes, thank you, Josh. My voice isn't deep. We seem to have fixed the audio issue that we had last week. If you tuned in last week, we're really sorry that we had to close the stream early. My voice seemed to go really deep, and Becca, you couldn't hear at all. But you can catch the talk again. We carried on recording even though we stopped the stream. And so we had Ellie Payne from Winchester, and she did an amazing talk. And it's available on the YouTube channel. So if you want to catch up on that incredible talk, you can find it on the YouTube channel. So all is not lost. You can still watch it. It was brilliant. So yeah, my highlight has definitely been barbecue. We had a barbecue yesterday out in our garden. I'm looking this way because our garden's out there. But we had a barbecue out in our garden. I love a good barbecue. I don't know about you. Maybe put in the chat what your favourite barbecue food is. For me, I love going for a burger, a big burger. We put cheese on top, put the lid on, melt it a little bit. Oh, perfect. Cool. Well, we are going to hear a talk from Josh Wilson today. So I'm going to hand over to that. I hope you guys enjoy.
This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test.
Josh, it's so great to have you with us on the live stream today. Let's just ask you a few questions. So why don't you kick off with what your name, who you are, where you live, maybe where you're locked down right now, and what it is you do.
Okay, so I'm Josh. I live in Cornwall, so that's where I am right now. I'm in a little village that's near Falmouth on the south coast, and I'm part of Highfield because I'm a student at Southampton, and I do marine biology there. So the big goal in life is to get stuck into that somehow after uni.
It's good. Okay, I've got 2 questions for you before we let you kick off.
Okay.
First question is this. Given that you do marine biology, what is your favourite fish or sea creature?
Okay, my favourite sea creature is definitely a dolphin. Anyone that knows me will know that. I don't shut up about them, but favourite fish would probably be a manta ray.
Dolphin, bottlenose dolphin.
My all-time favourite is the hourglass dolphin. They live in Antarctica, and they've got these huge pods because in Antarctica we're not destroying the world, whereas we are everywhere else. So in Antarctica you can see loads of these things just destroy. Like, it's insane apparently. I mean, I've never been, but apparently it's like one of the most unreal sights to see, like an ocean full of dolphins.
Wow, that is cool. And favourite fish? If you had to choose a fish?
Manta ray. They got the biggest brain of any fish, and apparently when you go scuba diving with them, again, I've never done it, but apparently they are really like playful and interact with you quite a lot, which is something I don't think we see fishers doing so often.
That is very cool. I remember I did scuba diving once, and that, you know, the cleaner fish, you can open your mouth and they'll clean your teeth. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, you got to take your breather out as well.
You do. You have to take your breather out and go like that, and then the fish come up to you and go ding 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 ding. Kill them.
And you got to try and swat them away before you get it back in.
Yeah, that was my highlight of when I went diving. It was very funny. Cool. Final question before we let you kick off then. So we're in lockdown, which means church is closed, and we're kind of all on our own in terms of worshipping and praying and reading the Bible, which is something we've been thinking about at youth. But here's my question for you: what's one worship song right now that has really helped you through, that you've just been, jamming on your own to? Like, what's the one worship song for you?
So it's not necessarily like the sort of worship song you'd hear in church. It's not like a House Fires or a Hillsong sort of worship song, but I listen a lot to this guy called Montel Fish, and he writes
Yes.
oh, you know him?
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. He, honestly, I love him. And he just does like lo-fi hip hop sort of beats, and he just sings like such beautiful words over the top of it. And he's done a song recently with a poet called Miles Carter, and it's called "Give You More," and it's beautiful. Both of them are so like introspective and like the sort of person that I would quite like to be. So to hear them working together on a song is beautiful.
Yeah, I've been listening to it loads at the moment. Although it's funny that we've come back to Fish again already.
Yeah, maybe that's why I like him so much.
Maybe. Cool. Well, Josh, I'm going to pray for you before you speak. Do you want to just share just a really little bit about what you're going to say? And then I'll pray.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about humility, which is something that is a big journey of mine, and I'm still moving through it, but I'm calling it the pursuit of humility because that's what I'm in pursuit of right now.
That's great. All right, I'm going to pray. Father God, I thank you for Josh and for the words you put on his heart. Lord, I pray that as he speaks to us today, that your words would just impact us powerfully. Lord, that you would just speak through him. You would sift what he's prepared, and just let the right words come out that you want us to hear. God, I pray that we would have ears to hear this message, and hearts to receive it too. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, okay. So the pursuit of humility is something that is really important to me because I kind of noticed maybe about 1.5 years, 2 years ago that my pride had gotten to a point where I wasn't really happy with it anymore. I felt that I was too proud, and pride can be a whole bunch of things. It can be like arrogance in yourself. It can be not asking for help when you need it. It can be that internal voice that's telling you that you're right when you're wrong. And I was finding myself in these situations all the time for a bunch of reasons, but this really hurt me most because when I was younger, I got a lot of things wrong when I was a teenager. I did a lot of things that I wouldn't do anymore, and I wasn't necessarily the sort of person I'd like to be. But one thing that I was humble, and I think it was quite hard to see that the one thing that I'd always liked about myself was no longer true. And that's what shook me most about this, and that's what set me on the journey of wanting to be humble again. So I kind of started off by viewing humility as this thing where if I say the right things, people will think I'm humble, and maybe I'll become humble by doing that. So when people compliment you, you just downplay it. When people were, I don't know, I guess just bigging me up, praising me for things that either were true or weren't true, I would deny it both ways. And when I was doing that, all I was thinking is I want people to think I'm humble, which is the complete wrong way to go around it, because that's not being humble. That's not an internal change. That's just an external change. And it essentially is like, I don't know, saying you want the world to think that you love football when you really hate it. But every time someone asks you about it, you just rant about how much you love it. But it's not true that you love it just because you say you do. And in the same way, it's not true that I'm humble just because I say the right things to seem like it. So I really had to analyze where I was and look at myself and say, am I really trying to be humble, or am I just trying to seem like it so that people don't ever call me out on my pride? And that led me into this whole journey of what actually is humility, how does it actually represent itself, and where in the Bible can we look to see people who maybe struggled with pride sometimes. And there's a lot of people that struggle with pride. There's King Saul, who would never let David take his throne, even though God had willed it so. And there's a lot of other characters in the Old Testament you can look at, but for me, the big one is Peter. he might not be someone that you initially see as prideful, because he does a lot of things right. But I think in a similar way to me, he was proud in the moments when it counted most that he wasn't. So you look at the stories of him denying that he even knew Jesus when Jesus was dying, or you look at when he was eating with the Jews and not the Gentiles, when he should have been eating with both. Peter kind of cared too much what people thought of him, and he let that pride get in the way of his actions. And I think in both examples, under those circumstances, I can't say that I would do any different. Like, he had a lot of pressure, obviously, at the time of Jesus' crucifixion. Everyone hated Jesus and what he stood for that was crucifying him. Otherwise, why would they be killing him? So fair enough that Peter denied him. At the same time, when Peter ate with the Jews, a lot of the Jews were saying that you shouldn't be eating with Gentiles. And it took God revealing to Peter that it was okay for him to actually change his ways. And Paul calling him out on it. So I looked at Peter and I looked at how he changed. And it wasn't this whole thing of, oh, I'm going to just go eat with the Gentiles now. It was a journey with God. God gave him a vision of being able to eat everything and eat with everyone, that ended up with Peter actually changing his perspective on this. And I know this might not necessarily make the most sense with humility, because Peter's not being outwardly arrogant here, but his actions represent that his intentions are about what other people view him as and not about what he actually is. And I think that for me is what the root of pride represents. But learning that made me think, do I need to just make myself worse so that I'm more humble? Which is completely not what Peter did, but it's completely how I took it. And this summer just gone, I spent a lot of it just kind of regressing in a way in my relationship with God, because a lot of what I was proud about was how much I prayed, how much I read the Bible, and I viewed other Christians in the way of, you don't do that as much as me. Even though I had no knowledge that they didn't, I would still view them like that. And so I started doing less of that so that I would be less proud of it, which worked, because how can you be proud of something you're not doing? But at the same time, that's not really what humility is about. Like, it's not about making yourself worse so that you're less proud. It's about getting better and still viewing yourself as flawed. Like, it's all about being able to stay true to yourself while you progress. And someone spoke to me about this, and they were like, why is that your attitude? And they used the analogy of being the fastest man on earth, which, bear with me, if you asked me, are you the fastest man on earth? And I said yes, that wouldn't be humble. That would be prideful, arrogant, whatever you want to call it. But if you ask Usain Bolt the same question, he says yes. It's just true, right? It's not arrogant. Maybe if he said, yeah, obviously, why are you even asking that? That might be arrogant. But if he just says yes, it's not. And that was the challenge. It was like, humility is not about being self-deprecating. It's not about just constantly saying that you're not good at things, even when you are. And it's not about pretending that you're not good at things or making yourself bad at them so that you're not proud about it. Humility is just about being honest with yourself, knowing your strengths, knowing your flaws. And when people talk about them, if you're truly humble, then you will accept compliments that are true and challenge ones that aren't. And you'll accept that sometimes you're going to be wrong, unless you have this insane knowledge of the world, which I don't think anyone except God does. And it's taking time to speak, taking time to, I guess, process things before you react to them. Because once you're truly humble, it's not just your words that change, it's your actions that change too. And I'm not saying I'm there yet at all. I think if I ever end up saying that, I've become proud again. But I think when you're humble, you're willing to ask for help when you need it. And when you're humble, you accept that a lot of the time you're going to need God's help in the world. When you're humble, you're going to be like Peter, and you're going to be listening for God's word and following his advice on things. Instead of trying to push whatever narrative you want, you're going to read the Bible and you're going to see it how it is, not how you want it to be. You're going to talk about things, and you're going to not use the Bible as this tool to back you up and extract little bits that say what you want, but you're going to just read it and represent it in the world. I definitely feel like I'm rambling a bit, but I think this is quite important to me, that humility is so much more than words, that humility is so much more about how I act, about never considering someone less knowledgeable or less faithful or less anything than I am, which is a hard thing to do. I think, like I'm saying, accepting your strengths and not thinking that you're better at something than anyone else is a very weird thing to try and balance. But I think it's possible, because when you're secure in something that you're good at, you don't tend to think at all about how good others are. If your prayer life is good, how good other people's prayer lives is irrelevant to you. Like, you can help them grow in it if they ask you to, but you don't need to judge them for it. And in the same way, if you're fast, how fast other people is irrelevant to you. Even if you're Usain Bolt and you're the fastest man in the world, if Usain Bolt is humble about his speed, then it doesn't matter that he's faster than other people, and he won't judge them for being slower than him. He'll accept that he is fast, and they might be fast too, but not at his level, but that's okay. And maybe he'll try and make them faster. It's a weird analogy to use with faith, but I think this is what humility means to me. It means I need to continue to look to grow. And whilst I'm on that journey, I need to try and help others grow too. But at no point should I make assumptions about where they're at. And at every single point, I should also look for what I can learn from them, if that makes any sense. I think I'm done.
That's great, Josh. That's so good. It reminds me of, I don't know who said it. I'm sure it's someone famous, and I should be giving them credit, but I think there's a phrase. It's something like, humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I think
yeah, definitely.
Really cool. And it also reminds me of I forgot what I was going to say now. There's something else that really stood out to me from what you said about humility. Oh, it was about what you were saying about the character of Peter. I love that. I love the character arc of Peter in the Bible. It's brilliant, and you see so many highs and lows. And I think you're right. It's the perfect character to draw on in terms of humility. I love that image of Peter. We often look at it this time of year, just post Easter, but right at the end of John's Gospel in John 21, and Jesus appears again to the disciples, and they're out fishing. And I just love this image that for Peter, when it all hits the fan, when he's denied Jesus, and when he's really scared, he reverts back to what he knows. All of that 3-year journey with Jesus is suddenly undone in a moment, and he's back in the fishing boat, and he's completely regressed to what he was before he even started following Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think that can be true of us sometimes. I think sometimes when things get tough, when we're in a stressful or tense situation, or when we have a big knock, like his pride is probably knocked hugely because of what he's done in terms of denying Jesus. And suddenly we just fall back to what we were before we met God. Yeah, that's a big thing. But I think the beauty of Peter as well is that he's so like passionate and instinctive as well. And I think a lot of the time, I guess I'd call him headstrong. I think that's the perfect word to summarize his passion and his pride. And I think that's kind of where I found myself before too, is Peter's always the first one to jump out of the boat when Jesus rocks up. When he's walking on water, Peter's the one that tries to walk with him. But at the same time, he has these flaws too that come with it. And I guess what it's about learning is
just how to balance everything in life. Like, so much of life is just about balancing things, and if you can manage to harness that passion and that just complete desire to chase God with everything you've got, but then calm yourself and your mind and prioritize what's right, maybe we'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a good guy to learn from.
Yeah, that's great. Guys, if you're watching live and you have any questions, do feel free to put them in the chat. We will try and answer them today, or we can put them to Josh after the stream's ended. But thank you so much for joining us, Josh. It's been so great to have you on. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Great. Amazing. We hope you enjoyed that talk that we caught when we caught up with Josh earlier this week. If you have any questions about what Josh said, now is the time to stick them in the chat before we sign off. It was really great to hear Josh's thoughts on humility. Coming up this week, we have part 3 on Friday of our Faith Through Lockdown series. So if you've been with us the last few Fridays, week 1 we looked at silence and retreat and all that kind of stuff. This week on Friday, we talked about prayer. So the challenge for you guys is, what are you going to be doing this week? Maybe in your small groups, you set some challenges together about how you can find that place of prayer this week, how you can spend more time in prayer with God this week. So I want to encourage you this week to try out whatever you challenged each other in your small groups. But also, this coming week, we're going to be looking at part 3, which is going to be all about reading the Bible. So we're looking forward to seeing you on Zoom on Friday. If you're watching this stream and you currently aren't plugged into all the stuff we're doing as youth, if you're between the age of 11 and 18, we'd love to connect with you. So maybe drop a comment below or send an email to youth@highfield.church. We would love to get connected with you. But we're going to sign off in a moment, guys. So thank you for joining us live. It's been great to have you. We will see you all in the week. Bye.